We are back after having some technical difficulties. Let me see it to go. Invite Mark.
So you're back.
This is sometimes what you have to deal with. And look, this is a perfect competition experience we said. You know, how do you tackle it and how you fix it up again?
I always say the maximum of technique I can use is a corkscrew, and it's been proven once again. I know why I don't work in the techie industry, but I work in a hands-on job like opening wine bottles and pouring glasses. That's about all the technique I can do.
I think we should go quickly repeat a couple of things because I think they got butchered up. We talked about we talked about a couple of very successful mentoring women. I just added on Pascaline and Paz, which are obviously
definitely
absolute forces within this industry.
Yeah.
But
I totally agree. And actually, Paz gave me a very stern telling off when we were training in Canada. She was judging my cocktail performances, and I really didn't do very well. And she was very, very strict with me. And I'm very, very thankful for it because it made me go back and spend the months before the competition revising even more. So if you're watching Paz or Pascaline and also Veronique, many, many thanks. It was very, very great to train with all of you. And I think Julie was in too.
I had an Instagram live talk with Paz, and she was so phenomenal, and she opened up so beautifully. You know, sometimes, you know, when you talk on Instagram live, you know, I'm a very personable guy, so you want to talk with someone, you know, we're social people, and I managed to get so much out of information out of her. She said, "Oh my God, did I talk too much?" I said, "No, you were perfect." But she's so sensitive and so sweet and so talented. It's really phenomenal to see that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it's also for her interesting being Argentinian, now working in Paris, in Valence, in Switzerland. It's probably a bit like you, jumping in a completely different world. And I think it's great the way she goes about it. And also with a very strong chef on her side with Anne-Sophie Pick.
Oh, great. Great. Which person does inspire you? It can be someone within the profession or as a non-professional. Which person really when you always love to listen to?
Now, there will be probably a lot of awes in the audience, but I really have to say my father, who worked in a completely different trade, but I really marvel the way he went about it. And within our industry, there are several people. I already mentioned Marcus de Monego. I already mentioned Aurélien Blanc, who's my mentor and my boss at the same time. But also Serge Dupes, who is, I always like to say, he's a ASI world champion longer than I live. He won in '89. And he still works on the restaurant floor in Auberge de Lille in Alsace. And he is one of the most humble people I know. And that's what we spoke about earlier, I think is so important. And one of the very few trips I did outside of Switzerland this year was to visit him in Alsace and to have a menu from Chef Marc Evalin. And it's such an amazing team which has stuck together like glue for decades. And if you see real perfection like that at work, it's really mind-boggling. So that was amazing to see. Who inspires you?
I'm very fortunate to get around a lot of people, but obviously within the wine industry, I love to talk to Jean-Marc Rouleau. He's a big mentor. Mainly because you mentioned earlier, I am not a winemaker. Gerhard Kracher, my partner at the Sohm Kracher winery, he is the winemaker. No. I have no illusion there. And the reason why I got into this, look, I traveled in Argentina for the first time, I think it was in 2008. And winemakers down there, and I was sitting at Achaval Ferrer, and they asked me to criticize their wine. And it was such a moving experience, and I thought, you know, I, as a matter of fact, criticize only, but make nothing. And you mentioned this earlier. And so I started looking for that topic, and I shared this with Gerhard Kracher, and he said, why don't we do something together? And to me, that made sense. And it was such a great experience because, you know, when you talk about farming and going with winemakers through the vineyards and talk about farming practices, our trained sommelier knowledge evaporates very quickly there. Plus, winemakers also taste very different. So it was very interesting because when I typically go and travel wineries, it's like visiting a large family. They line up the well-behaved children up in the front, and the naughty children are locked away. But from the naughty children, you learn the most. And I get to see this right now, and I can experiment a lot. And sometimes, you get often too dogmatic components, and I test this and try this right now. And this is, again, you learn a ton about it. And we make now four different Grüner Veltliners, 4 up in the Weinviertel, 1 on the Leiterberg. And again, I learned so much, and it's exhilarating to see that. And now it tastes also different. And I worked Harvest in 2015, and I did a stage with Jean-Marc Rouleau, and I felt a little bit like Karate Kid. Every day, wax on.
Painting the fence. No? Yeah. And I think what you mentioned is so true. I always, like many people say, okay, now you're a successful sommelier, do you want to make your own wine? And I say, I could never do my own wine because I marvel at winemakers. Their whole work of a year can be destroyed in 1 hour of hail or storm or somebody picking the grapes in the vineyards. And I marvel at that stress. I could not live through that. I'm a very organized person, and as working in service, you do mise en place, so you polish your glasses, you chill your wine, and you never know what's going to happen in service, but you more or less can prepare. But as a winemaker, you can do everything right, and then 1 bad hour in the year, and all your work's gone. And I think I marvel at how they go through this every year again and again, and I always think it's something many people don't think about, but that needs to be highlighted.
No, people think it's very romantic. But I tell them, listen, just work Harvest and the romance is over after 5 minutes.
Yes. The first harvest I did was only a day, and I was lucky it was only a day. It was in the Ahr Valley, which is a very small red wine region in the west of Germany. And it's very, very steep. So we came there. It was a group of young people from the hotel I did my training at in Cologne. And then we did harvest. And I'm not sure if you can see this, but basically when you do harvest in a steep vineyard, you have one leg full and the other's about under your chin. And at the same time, you're trying to balance that the grate with all the grapes you picked, which have been the whole year work of your vintner, doesn't swim by you or slide down the hill, because then the vintner gets very, very cross. And I did that, I think, when I was 18 or 19. And since then I was like, okay, winemaking and wine picking is very hard work. I'll step back and I'll let the professionals handle it.
Yeah. It's much easier to work the floor.
Yeah. Yes, in many ways, yes. Yeah. I think I can't pinpoint it down to wine, so I'll probably have to go for a grape. And I think grape, yes, I heard you. The grape I would probably choose to describe myself as Chenin Blanc, because to me, Chenin Blanc is rooted in its tradition, in the Loire and Vouvray and other appellations, but it's become very successful elsewhere, especially South Africa, so it's open-minded. It has a little bit of acidity and minerality, which some people find very annoying, which can be true of myself too. But then usually it has a sweet finish, which I try to do with my Cologne charm too. So that would be me. How about you? Which wine or grape would you be, Aldo? I think I need a sip of wine. The connection is being difficult again. So I would be commenting. Yeah, there we go. No. Yeah. And that's why I just want to say a big thank you to all of you bearing with us through this difficult connection. Same time, it often has a sweet finish, which I think can be charming. Andreas makes me smile again. Thank you for that. So, seems to be very challenging. I know that in Switzerland it's now 11 p.m., which is when restaurants need to close. So it closes as now at 11 p.m. It might be that. But thank you for everybody bearing with us. Aldo's writing will have to finish. Thank you very much for the conversation in live without connection. In the meantime, to you, Aldo. Enjoy red wine, and I